Divine device shoes, one of my favorites. Okay, now there's a certain irony in the device issue, because I've got another business which is all centered around digital marketing. So people always expect me to be a high device oriented person, but actually I'm device oriented during work hours, and then pretty much after that, unless I am getting something that is feeding my soul, such as meditation, or I'm communicating with my community, or I'm communicating with my family, like overseas, and friends overseas, I don't really use it. And I try not to. I want to have consolidated presence time with my family when I do get to have it. So, people find it quite interesting hanging out with me, especially my friends, because I've got a policy that when we meet at lunch times or any meal, that all devices are turned off or they put in the handbags. I even have it sometimes, we put it in the center of the table, but I don't even do that anymore. I actually ask folks to put them in their handbags and not to answer them for the period of time that I'm actually with them. And the reason is that these devices have become an extension of ourselves. They literally are we get so addicted to them and have been so trained. We get it's all part of the marketing, guys. Those little notification pings. It's like ping, ping, ping. It's drawing your attention back. It's drawing your attention back. It's drawing your attention back. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And the me is a device. It's a thing. And then there's all these hundreds of, quite often, acquaintances. It's notification bells that are about all sorts of rubbish. It's like, oh, you've subscribed to, so therefore, oh, it's time to buy, it's time to buy, it's time to buy something. Then it might be, oh, so and so is doing a silly little dance, silly dance, silly dance, silly dance, silly dance. Now, what are you filling your brain with when you're doing that? That really concerns me. For a start, is that we are being trained, literally trained, through those little notification pings, through those bombarding of our senses with irrelevant, shallow, erratic stuff, okay, that really overloads our system and makes us, in my opinion, more vulnerable to and more susceptible to marketing messages, to rubbish, really, to whatever that person's trying to sell or engage you in their services, etc., etc. Now, look, I'm not saying that all of them are like that. Obviously, there's going to be stuff, but it's like you've now got to filter through 10 messages to get one that is actually relevant to you. Now, that is one thing that concerns me about that, is that we as a society, and we are training our young ones, dare I say, through the access of media on the phone, on a device, or on an iPad, that they are constantly being bombarded with these messages. And what happens is we become programmed by whatever those messages are. We start listening to it. We start defining ourselves by it. We start becoming something other than what we are. Now, that is a real concern for me, because that is such a disconnect. My whole thing that I do with all my coaching is the complete opposite of that. It's how to reconnect to who we truly are. What are we here for? We are human beings. Are we human beings having a spiritual experience, or are we spiritual beings having a human experience? And it's kind of turning everything on its head, isn't it, when you start thinking of it like that? A spiritual being doesn't need to have all that stuff, doesn't need all that need for attention, doesn't have that I'm significant game going on. I need to keep you busy with, I need to keep you distracted by, I need you to not be thinking about what you really are here for, or what you're really driven about, by drowning you out in the noise, and that's really what it becomes, is that we get drowned out in, overwhelmed with so much rubbish, that we, as Jim Rohn, the famous motivational speaker, who actually taught Tony Robbins, says, if you don't stand guard at the doorway of your mind, the weeds will take over. And that's exactly what this is, the doorway to your weeds. And all of the weeds come up through the device and then program you, take over. And who's in control in that situation? Is it you, or all these other things coming at you through the device, and it really is a real concern. And we get latched and attached to this, which is what causes suffering. If you talk about the Buddhists always talk about the level of suffering that we have is the amount of attachment that we have. We start defining ourselves and attaching ourselves to whatever is coming up through those messages. So that is a real concern. So being very specific about what comes through your device is one thing, but device disease lands up being where it becomes all consuming, and it really does become that. Like when I go out, like I was saying with my friends, my request is that the phone doesn't go on at all during the period of time that we're actually having our meal. So someone has to be half pie dead or in hospital or dead in order to be able to pick that up. Now, it sounds pretty harsh to actually say those are the criterias, but to be honest, if you think about the old days, before we had mobile phones, when you went out for lunch, you were just fully present with that person, weren't you? You know, you look, there were magazines and newspapers and stuff like that. And this is what I often find is that, you know, don't be fooled by thinking, well, they've put their device down. Now they're here, fully here with me. Quite often they will look for some other form of distraction, like a newspaper or a book or a TV or anything, because they are so uncomfortable within themselves. They are so used and trained to be overwhelmed and distracted that they actually don't know what to do with themselves. And you often look at these young ones coming up now, they are edgy as if you take their phones off them. They don't know how to be comfortable in their own presence, and that is a real concern for me, because it's like that whole Eiffel Tower that I was talking about the other day in one of my other videos. You know, if you could have the most wonderful gift of knowledge floating around in your hemisphere, waiting for it to download so that you can manifest in the real world. But if you've got all of this tornado of stuff and irrelevant garbage going on, and you're in this whirlwind, you're not the eye of the storm, and you're not going to be able to channel that thing to manifest it into your actual life, are you? And that's the danger of the device, is that it's exactly that. So when we can get very precise about what it is we're going to look on there, how long we're actually going to be on there for, and honor that time just for that time, then switch it off, you know, turn it off. Don't reach for it first thing in the morning. And it's hard. It's really hard because you're breaking a habit. We've been trained. It's a habit forming device. And in there are all these people trying to get your attention to have a habit trained to them. Okay. But is it serving you, or is it disserving you? And that's where you got to start looking at it. Is it at cost to self? Yes, quite often, because if we're filling our brains with garbage in, garbage out. So how can you possibly know who you are when everybody else is telling you should be like this, you should look like that, you should be behaving like this is what you should buy in order to get loved and appreciated, this is how you connect, and I'll show you how you do it, and I'll find you this and exactly blah 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 blah. You know, it's just like, oh, okay, all right, enough now. Who am I really? This is why the whole thing is about the the shoes in the closet and feng shui in your closet. It's getting rid of all that crap. It's getting clear about what is it that works for me, what is it that doesn't work for me. I've been told that works for me. Does it really? Are those a pair of shoes I actually want to be wearing? Probably not, you know. But how do you know unless you question it? How do you know if you're not even aware of it? So this is an awareness journey that, you know, we can all go, actually, do you know what? I do spend an obscene amount of time on my device. And then you've got to be asking why. So it might be that whole thing of, are you looking to disconnect? Like if you're a high-end manager, take that quiz, you know, that we're putting out, the 3 hidden shoe types quiz, because every single person has a particular type that, and you'll be one of them. It might be that you're a manager or a firefighter, but might be a reason. Like if you're a firefighter or a manager, you might be wanting to avoid or disconnect in order not to feel the pain of whatever it is. And you may not think of anything, any specific event, but that's half the thing with the attachment styles. once you join the Facebook group, if you haven't already done that, you can direct message me for the Attachment Styles free ebook that I've written, e-guide, and that will tell you which one of those 4 types you actually are. That will give you even more information that will tell you exactly in a precise format which one you are and why you are needing to do the device more than others, okay? Or, you know, why you're finding it hard to let that go or to minimize the amount. So honor the fact that, you know, I've now recognized that I've got device shoes on. You know, do you have device shoes on? And if so, just how bad is it? Like, scale it out of 10. If it's 10, like, you know, you've got to do quite a bit of work. You actually have an addiction. I call it device, addiction. If we're too hooked into it, what can we do to fix it? How can we change it? And it's like just little steps backwards, you know, just like, let's pull it back. Instead of spending 5 hours on it, maybe you do 4 hours or even 4.5 hours, and then, you know, little steps to chunk it down. And then be careful of the vacuum shoes. Remember, I was talking I've done a video on that, #vacuum shoes. You can do that in the YouTube channel or in the Facebook channel. A Facebook group, VICKI JANE group. And what you can learn from that is that, you know, you need to replace it with something that's going to be positive so that you stick with that behavior. So that's all part of the behavioral cognitive, modification, where we actually want to adjust the way that you're behaving, and we're undoing the bad habit and installing a new habit. And the new habit will be less device time. So a real worry for me, you know, that our kids are doing this as well. So you have to also, once you're on top of it for yourself, start training your kids and people that you love, you know, see if they'd be open to it, because they may not be. But if you can, see if, like, right, okay, if I'm going to take them off the device, what am I going to do with them? Don't just say, right, no device time. Give them something positive that's going to change that. It might be that you play a board game with them. It might be that you go for a walk with them or a bike ride with them, or it might be that, you just say, for 20 minutes, let's just talk about your day. I just want to know how your day was at school, you know, that kind of thing. So get the reconnection in a positive way. And what you're doing is, remember I was saying, behind every behavior is a positive intention in NLP. If you can find out what their driver is, if it's to feel connection, you see, you're providing connection again, but just in a more healthy way. So connection off the device with the family by talking to them, saying, how was your day? Having a board game, feeling connected with the family. See how so you're still supplying the driver, which is the connection, but in a healthier format, not the device. And then say, right, let's schedule this in. Let's make it a habit. Let's start doing it every single Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it is, or every single night, whatever it is for you. So just start thinking about it and tell me what you're going to do. You know, tell me, put it in the comments, or direct message me if you're not comfortable, putting it out there in public. DM me and just tell me, you know what, thank you, that was actually quite insightful. I really found that useful, and I'm going to try that. And this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to commit to it. And maybe find someone in the Facebook group, that maybe you know, or you can reach out to and say, hey, I'm looking for an accountability partner here who's going to keep me on track with not spending so much time on my device. Can you be it? Why not? You know, that's the whole point of the group, is to get the support. So why not? Or maybe you can offer it. Maybe post up something and say, hey guys, I'm interested in an accountability partner, anyone, game, and you can support them and what they need, and they can support you. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. Namaste.